Welcome to Latter-day Miracles, where we share true stories of angels and marvels.
Get ready to enjoy accounts from everyday people that remind us of divine love, that we're never truly alone, and the power of faith in these latter days. I'm Haley Hatch Freeman.
And I'm Misty Smith. Sit back, open your heart, and prepare to be inspired.
Welcome to Latter-day Miracles. We're so excited to have Kim Rives with us today. I met Kim many years ago. First, I read her book, and it's called My Walk Thru Heaven, and it changed my life. It really did. It was one of the best near-death experience books I ever read, and it really touched me, and it changed me when I read it. And I became such a huge fan of Kim Rives. I had a friend that knew how much I loved her, and she discovered that she was speaking at an event nearby. And I'm like, I need to get there. No matter what, I got to get there to meet Kim Rives because she was like my hero at the time. And I was able to travel there, get there, meet her. And she did not disappoint once I met her in real life. She was everything I wanted her to be. And then many years later, I happened to be going to a public speaking class to be trained in public speaking. And when I got there, sitting at the table was Kim Rives. I almost fainted. I was starstruck to meet her again and to become friends with her was such an honor. And since then, we've kept touch a little bit. And here she is on our podcast. And if you would have told me many years ago when I first read Kim's books that I would be interviewing her on my podcast, I would have never believed you. It's such an honor to have her here. She is such a special lady and has just meant so much to me in my life. So we will go ahead and read her bio now, and then we will turn the time over to her. Kim Rives is a resident of Logan, Utah. She is a mother to 3 beautiful children and 3 darling grandchildren. She has studied in the field of nursing, musical therapy, hypnotherapy, and corporate speaking. She loves music and playing the piano, guitar, and accordion. Kim is a singer and songwriter of over 130 songs.
How?
Yeah, she has a beautiful voice.
Oh,
12 of which she has featured on her CD titled Miracles Can Happen. Her songs are a unique blend of spiritual folk tunes given tribute to the Savior and those that helped her through her journey of advanced breast cancer. Good news, we have proof that she has survived breast cancer. Yeah, through a beautiful miracle story, which is in her book. Kim is a writer and has written for various magazines, including Sierra Online and The New Era.
Love it.
Yeah, she has authored her first book titled My Walk Thru Heaven. It is an inspirational story of her walk through cancer and her subsequent near-death experience. She is now in the process of writing her second book about the activity of angels in our lives. Kim has spoken and sung her way into the hearts of many people as she has traveled through the states in various locations. Kim's book and CD are now available directly from her, and we will give you that contact information on our website and after. So, Kim, thank you so much for being here. We will turn the time over to you.
Well, thank you, Haley. And I appreciate the introduction. It makes me feel special. So you're so kind. And thank you, Misty, for being here as well and adding your cheer. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. I feel very blessed. And I'm going to use notes because I'm going to cheat a little bit. I have chemo brain.
Okay.
I have a hard time remembering things right after the other, but I will begin by saying, as Haley said, I went in 1997, I was diagnosed with advanced breast cancer, and I went through chemo, radiation, a bone marrow transplant, and 13 surgeries. And during this time, I became so ill that the Lord blessed me with a near-death experience, I believe, to get me through what I had to go through. And I won't be talking about my near-death experience that was in my book, but I will be talking about a subsequent near-death experience that I had as I was trying to recuperate. It took me about 10 years to recover from this experience. It took me about 3 years to go through the treatment. And so I went to Walmart one day and I was feeling really sick when I was in there. So I decided I better go out and get in the car and go home. but I went out in the car and it was really hot. It was in the middle of August, and the parking lot had the steam coming up off the asphalt, and I had a brownout spell, which the doctor told me it was my hormones weren't working right. So I had a semi-conscious pass out, and as I was sitting in the hot car, getting hotter and hotter, I knew I was going to die. And just then, an EMT opened the door, and he told my mom he was home watching TV, and he had this impression that he was supposed to go to Walmart, and he didn't even know why or what he was supposed to get, but he turned off the TV and came to Walmart and found me slumped over in the car. So he called 911, got a hold of my mom, and they took me to the hospital where I did totally pass out. And when I woke up, so to speak, I was no longer in my body. I had passed through the veil, and I was standing, hovering in the air above headstones that surrounded me. I was in a graveyard, and I didn't know how I'd got there, why I was there, what I was supposed to be doing. And I was really confused and very disoriented. And there was an angel standing beside me, and um, I didn't know why he was there or what he was, if he'd come to take me home, or I wasn't sure what was going on. And so I asked him, "Who are you?" And he said, "Ask me who I was on earth." And I said, "Who are you on earth?" And he pointed to a tombstone that was right in front of me, and it said, "In memory of Father William Austin, born 1800, died 1887, captain of 35 wagons." And so he
Wow.
said, "I am William Austin, your great great grandfather." And like it says in Mortality, I was the captain of a wagon train taking the pioneers to Utah. And he said,
Wow.
"I'd come to show you cemeteries where you might be buried." And it was then that I had this strong impression come over me that he had actually helped in delivering me from the car. That he most likely had gone and inspired the man in the EMT to come to Walmart, and I felt that he had been instrumental in saving my life. Um, and then
Mm.
Grandpa asked me, "Would you like to be buried by me?" And I didn't. I said I didn't know I had a choice. And he said, "Well, you can choose to be buried by me or someplace else." And I said, "Well, I wanted to be buried by my twin sisters in Downey, Idaho, and he was in the Cornish cemetery, I found out later. But I wanted to be buried in Downey where my twin sisters were buried and where my mom and dad would be buried and where my grandparents were buried. But I didn't want to hurt his feelings. And so I was very indecisive. And because he seemed like he was so eager for me to be buried beside him. Um, and so I felt very unsettled. And so he said, "Well, since you can't decide," he said, "let's take a cemeterial tour and I'll show you where some of your ancestors are buried." So he took me to 7 different cemeteries, and I don't remember, traveling through space or time. We were just instantly at a new cemetery, and he would show me where my great 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 grandma and grandpas were buried, or um, distant cousins or aunts or uncles, or he showed me all sorts of people that were buried, and each time he would ask me in each cemetery if I wanted to be buried there, and each time I told him no because I wanted to go to Downey secretly. Um, and he said, "Well, since you can't decide where," he took me back to his headstone. He said, "So do you want to be buried by me or by the twins?" And I was still I don't like to hurt people's feelings. So I was still kind of unsettled to answer him. And he says, "Well, since you can't decide, why don't you decide to just live?" And,
Oh.
and I said, "Oh, well, I didn't know I had that choice either." I was feeling really resistant and reluctant because my daughter was serving in the army in Iraq, and she had called me many times. She drove the fuel truck to the front lines, and so she was always in danger, and she had had many hard, horrible conditions and experiences. And I said, I have to die because I have to go over to Iraq and help my daughter Amber, protect her from the terrorists." And he said, "Well, I have many angel friends, and we will help protect her. I will help protect her. So you go back and write her letters and call her and send her presents. Just love her through this experience." Well, I still felt reluctant. Like I felt like I said, "Well, you might get busy and forget." And he promised me he wouldn't get busy and forget, but I've had a lot of
I
men
love
let me down in my life. So I thought I thought he might, and so I was a little bit reluctant to have faith in him. And he said, "Well, let me show you greater faith in me." So he showed me. He took me to a scene. It was nighttime, and he said, "I'm going to show you a scene from my pioneer days when I was alive in immortality." And so there was this fire, a big bonfire, and there's these people, men and women, that were gathered around the fire in a circle, and then the wagons were circled behind them. I noticed the men were very gaunt and emaciated, and it was like they had given the women their food, and they were shivering because it was so bitter cold. And then I saw a woman, and she had a long black skirt on and a white blouse and a cream colored shawl on, and it had big holes in the spaces where it had been crocheted. And I remember thinking, oh, my mom likes to do humanitarian work. And so I asked in my heart if mom couldn't make her something that was warmer. And of course, this was in the past. I was being shown the past, so mom couldn't really do that, but that was my intent. And she had these pretty boots that were black with little white lace up buttons on the side. And I thought, oh, those are beautiful. I would like a pair just like those. And then for some reason, I was able to see on the bottom of her feet, and the soles had holes in them, and her feet were bleeding on the snow. And I felt so sorry for her. And then Grandpa said to me, like I told you, I've helped people in very many bitter and bad conditions. And he said, I can help your daughter too. Well, um, I still refused because I felt like I would be the one to help Amber. And he said, well, then let's go visit Amber in Iraq. Let's go into the future. You can see the past as well as the future when you're on the other side, and as well as the present. He said, let's go into the future and see what will happen to Amber if you choose to die and don't go back. And so instantly we were in the desert, and I could see the steam coming up off the sand. It was so hot there. And so it was a stark difference from the bitter cold now to the, Amber said sometimes it was 140 degrees there in Iraq.
Oh my goodness.
And so she said it was so hot and the sand would blow, and it was miserable. And anyway, she would drive the truck to the front lines with the fuel, and she was in the truck driving, and she was crying, and Grandpa and I landed in the chair right beside her. And I said, she had her blonde hair pulled back in a bun, and then tears were streaming from her beautiful blue eyes. And I said, Grandpa, why is Amber crying? And he said, because she just found out that you've died, and she's very sad. And so I thought, well, she just needs to know I'm here, and I will help her. So I leaned over and whispered in her ear, Amber, it's mom. I'm right here. You're going to be okay. I'm going to protect you. Don't be sad. And she just kept driving straight forward. She didn't even look my direction. And Grandpa said, dear, she can't hear you or see you. You need to go back, like I said, and love her through this experience. And and then I said, well, I just need to yell louder. So I yelled in her ear, Amber, it's mom. I'm right here. I'm going to protect you. Don't cry. It's okay. I'm right here. She still didn't hear me. So then Grandpa said, will you go back? Will you go back and help her? And my mother heart was so sad, seeing her so sad, that I said, yes, I will. And so instantly I was back at the hospital, and I woke up in my body, and I heard Grandpa speak to my ear, and he said, Kim, you're going to get better. I want you to get a healing blessing. And so I told my mom, she was standing beside me, and I asked her if she would get Ray, my friend, to give me a blessing. And he said when he came in, he felt angels. He said, I felt the room filled with angels that were assisting him and helping you through this experience. And so I did get better. Um, but that night I had a dream, and I dreamed that I was still in the hospital, and I dreamed that Amber was on her cot in Iraq, and she was crying, and Grandpa was underneath her holding her, and he was stroking her hair and her face. And he said to me, I am her father. She is my daughter. And it reminded me of the scripture in Malachi 4 that says, the hearts of the fathers shall turn to the children, and the children shall turn their hearts to the fathers. And so it reminded me of that because she didn't really have a dad that loved her. So he was taking that place. And I was so happy for that. While I was in the hospital, I had another kind of different little experience, another near death. I passed out again, and I was taken in the past. I grew up on a farm, and I was taken to the farm where I grew bunnies. And I would have them have their babies, and then we would sell their babies. And so the bunny was talking to me, and in the scriptures it tells us the animals will be able to talk in heaven. And so this bunny was talking to me, and it says, "Do you remember the day when it was so bitter cold?" It was in Montana, and we were at the base of the mountains. And he said, "Do you remember when it was so bitter cold and you didn't feed me?" And I said, "I do remember that. I felt guilty about that for a long time. I didn't come out and feed the bunnies." And she said, "Well, I was so hungry, and the food would have given me extra heat to keep me warm." And she said, "I felt bad that you didn't take care of me that day. And so I apologized to the bunny." She said, "But you took very good care of my babies. Do you want to see where one of them went?" And I said, "I do." So it had been shipped to Seattle, Washington, and I got to see it hopping around. It was a big subdivision with huge houses, very wealthy houses, and they had this big yard and a fenced in white fence. And the bunny was hopping around in the grass, and they had little bowls out for it to have food. And so I got to see this happy little bunny. And so the mama bunny was letting me see that all was not lost. And so I
Wow.
learned that we need to take care of our animals. Um,
Wow.
Animals talk, so that's kind of cool. So when I got better, about 9 months later, I told my mom I wanted to go see if we could find Grandpa's grave because I'd never been there before in body. And so mom knew where it was, and she knew it was in the Cornish cemetery. We went there, and I told mom, "Don't tell me which headstone it is because I think I can find it." And so I surveyed the whole cemetery, and then I said, "It's right up there at the top in the center." And so mom said, "I can't remember if that's it or not. Let's go look." And so we went up, and sure enough, it was Grandpa's headstone. And so I was so grateful to find Grandpa's gravesite, and it gave me validation that I really had been there. And I said, "Mom, just think it was 128 years ago that Grandpa died, and I was standing right here with him, talking to him." And that made mom cry. I told my sister, I told her about the experience with Grandpa, and she is a genealogist and has worked at Ancestry. So I asked her if she could find anything on Grandpa Austin, and she found a journal entry that he had written to his niece in 1882. And it's long, so I just took out a couple paragraphs, and I wanted to read you a couple paragraphs. It says, "Dear niece, you wish to hear the history of my travels. I will give you a short sketch of them. I left Hammond in the year 1842 and went to Bonneville, Oneida County. From there I started to make my folks a visit, but I blistered my feet so badly that I gave it up and returned to my home. Soon thereafter I left Bonneville and started on my journey westward. I went to Buffalo on the canal, where I boarded a steamship and went to Chicago. I had a team and went 45 miles out in the country, where I took up some farmland and commenced to farm. The next year we left there and made our way to Nauvoo, Illinois. In the spring of 1842 we arrived in Nauvoo. I went to work for the temple, quarrying rock. I assisted with the building of the temple until it was completed. During the winter of 1843 we both took sick and were sick for many weeks. I got to feeling a little better, then I took a fresh cold, and it settled on my lungs. It lasted all winter and reduced me to a skeleton in my body, and took my means and left us almost destitute. It was supposed to be consumption. In the spring of 1844 I was sent out on a mission to advocate on the rights of Joseph Smith being President of the United States, and to explain his view. I had promised that if I went I would be restored to health. I began to get better from the first day I began to travel. I traveled through mud and water on foot, and traveled about 5 miles a day. I found the mob spirit so strong that I could do no good, so I returned to my home. I arrived there just 3 days before they took Joseph and Hiram Smith to Carthage jail, where they martyred them. Soon
Mhm.
after my return from this mission, I went to work on the temple, winding rock on the windlass. I continued to work on the temple until its completion. I helped lay the top cornerstone, then I went to help get the timber for the stairs and the finishings of the temple. We had to haul by raft down the river. When the temple was finished, I was called to be the doorkeeper to the house of the Lord. And I have some artifacts from the temple because my grandma in 1968 went on her mission to Nauvoo, and the mobs had burned the temple down. And so they had dug a big hole, and they were going to bury the remains of the temple in it. And my grandma, she was just a short little woman, a jolly little short woman, and she got down in the hole. She crawled over the fence and got down the hole and was finding the nails and the rocks and the stones and the burnt charred wood, and she was gathering it all up so that she could take it and use it for teaching objects. And so I inherited some of that. So anyway, my takeaway, I found that the angels love us. They watch out and protect us. They save us from danger. They love us. They instruct us. They guide us. And they're on the Lord's errand. And they are his emissaries. And they bring us lots of joy. And so if there's ever something you're trying to do and you need help with, just pray for an angel that's good at that. And you will have many at your disposal. And so that is my first story.
I just want to interject, I guess, for a second and just say I am absolutely loving today's theme of just family and angels and just having that constant connection on the other side. I feel like you have come to know your family so well. And I think when we know our past generations, we're able to accept their help so much better than if we didn't
Yes.
know their stories. So I love that you read some of his journals because I got to know him and it helped me understand why he would help you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Did you have anything you wanted to say, Haley, too?
Yeah, and I love how you said how you could pray for those angels to help you that are experienced in those things. I think we're learning that more and more lately.
Yeah, I believe that they really, because I saw my sister once, it's in my book, of Angel helping her with her thesis for college, and
Yes.
he was helping her write. And so I do believe they help us with different things, and they can help us with things that we are struggling with and other things too. So, anyway, that's my first story. And my second story is during cancer, and I went to college for about 5 years afterwards. And so I got really in debt being in cancer and going to college. And so I didn't have a good job. I still had my 3 kids. And so I didn't have a good job to pay all that off. So I prayed, and the Spirit told me to go door to door and sell my CDs, my music CDs. And so I was scared to do that, but I started doing it and it worked out okay. And I met lots of wonderful people, and many people supported me. It was wonderful. I would always pray every morning to know where to go. And so this one morning I prayed and I got the answer to go to the same place that I'd been at yesterday. And I would keep a paper journal of the homes I'd been to and the ones that didn't answer. And so I thought, I wonder why he's taking me back to the same place, because most everybody answered the door. But I decided to be obedient and I listened and I went back to the same place. And the first door I knocked on, a woman answered the door and she was crying very hard. And I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "My daughter just had her baby and it was stillborn." And
Oh,
I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And so I hugged her and she cried and we both cried. And then I told her, "Well, I was out selling my CD, but I'd like to give you one as a gift. And there's a song on it called My Angel Mom, because my mom helped me so much through cancer. She was an angel in disguise." So I said, "I'd like to give it to you to give to your daughter and see if maybe that would comfort her, because I'm sure she's an angel mom." And so later that day, she called me back, the grandma, and told me that her daughter liked the song so much she wanted me to write a song for the services for the baby. And I only had one day to write a song, and that's sometimes enough, but sometimes not enough. And so I was struggling writing the chorus for the song, and I was about ready to give up because I needed to prepare a song to sing for the graveside. And all of a sudden, Hinkley, the baby, she was now a grown spirit. She came to me and she said, "Kim, don't give up. I want my parents and my family to know how much I love them and how much I miss them and how grateful I am for them and that I'm okay. Don't give up. I'll help you." And so instantly she shot the chorus into my mind, and it said, "And now Jesus holds you in his loving arms. He rocks and protects you and keeps you from harm." So I was so excited. So I got the song finished just in time to go to the graveside. And I got there, and there was about 400 people. So many people had come out to support and love and comfort them. And I was so happy for them for that. And so after I sang the song, a woman came up afterwards and said, I would like you to take that song to the studio and record it professionally so I can give it to the mom. And I said, well, that's about $1,500, and I don't have that kind of money. And she said, well, I'm a millionaire and I do. So I'm going to
Oh
write
my
you a check
goodness.
right now for 1,500. So she wrote me out a check. And so in American Fork, there's a man by the name of Marvin Payne that does many wonderful things. And he has a studio and he can play about almost any instrument. And so he instrumentalized my song, and I was able to put it to music. And I've also given that to Haley, so maybe she can play it for you at some
I
point.
will. Yeah.
Wow.
What we'll do is at the end of our interview, I will play it. So for the listeners, stay tuned, stay on, and at the end, we will play her beautiful song. And it is it. You won't be able to listen to it without crying. It's so beautiful.
Oh,
I'm
thank
excited
you. I
to hear
appreciate it.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
it was directly from an angel. So little
Wow.
Hinkley gave me that song, and so that's what she wanted her family to know. So after I got the song back, I contacted the woman that had paid for it, and so she took me up to the people's house, and she had about 3 or 4 little girls that were little stepladders, like the blonde hair, blue eyes, and they were playing princess, so they were all dressed up in costume. And so they put the CD on, and they started swaying to the music and lifting their dresses and dancing all over and singing, and it was so cute, the joy that it brought their family, and the connection that it brought them with little Hinkley. And I felt Hinkley there very strong, that she was there with us as we were all joining in the merriment of having music to soften their souls that were hurting so bad. Anyway, I was so glad that I had listened and gone back to that subdivision like the Spirit had asked me to. So if we listen to our promptings, the Lord can make more of our life and more of other people's lives too. And like I say, Hinkley helped me with the song, and so angels can help us with our projects, and they look out for their family.
Wow. And I love that because it was a little stillborn baby. Sometimes people don't realize that even stillborn baby is still part of their family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
also love that you spoke about animals, music, just all these things that I think people sometimes wonder about because music has such a special place in people's hearts. I know it does for me. And there's times when I just feel like I need that comfort, that peace, or that guidance, and turning to the piano or turning to music and even playing it, or even just listening if you can't play it brings your soul to such a peaceful state. And so it's comforting to know that even on the other side, I don't even know how it works, but that music can be so healing and it delivers messages the way it did for you and for these families. I think that's absolutely incredible that you were using your talents that way. So thank you so much for sharing those things that hopefully will help people understand how amazing eternities can be.
Well, thank you. Those are very kind words and very insightful. I appreciate both your comments. Makes me feel good.
I already mentioned how impactful Kim's book, My Walk Through Heaven, has been on my life. And the whole book is incredible. But one particular story of her journey when she was in heaven and something she was shown has always impacted me. Like I think about it all the time. And I was hoping that she would share that story.
Sure. I was shown very many different scenes in heaven, and one of them that I was taken to, I met my mother in heaven, and I believe that is because my kids were taken away from me for quite a few years while I was in cancer and put in foster care. And so my mother heart was sagging, and I felt like I was a bad mom because I didn't have my kids with me, and they were being put through a lot of trials. And so she came to comfort me and teach me, and so she decided to show me some of her other children that suffered and were having a hard time. So she took me to many third world countries and showed me orphanages where babies, usually like 20 or 30 babies in a room, and they'd be in these little makeshift cribs and these little shanty like houses or rooms. And most of them were starving. I could feel their hunger and how much I felt like cancer was painful, but I felt starving was more painful than cancer. But something that was interesting to me is they had a little, like a little quarter inch, just little tiny aura light that came from their bodies. And so I was being taken there also to show my mom does humanitarian work, like I mentioned, and she knits and sews and does all sorts of things for babies in third world countries. And I was being allowed to see where some of her stuff was being taken. And there was a nun and a caretaker in this one that I remember, and they were taking the truckload of items my mom had made and they were putting them on the babies. And each time they took a baby and cradled it in their arms, the light would jump to about 1 or 2 feet. The light would jump from the babies, and I would see how love and service and kindness and clothing helps to comfort the soul. And it's like we're all little flashlights of Jesus, and he's the big lighthouse, and we are little flashlights. And the more that we serve and love, the more that we increase the light in this world, which makes for greater world peace. So I was very honored to see this amazing scene. And when I came back and I was better and back in my body, I watched this documentary with Mother Teresa, and she had gone to one of these orphanages, and I saw it there on the screen that there really was those kind of orphanages that I'd seen in spirit. And she was holding this little baby that fit in the palm of her hand that was premature. And she said, "Oh, she's a fighter. She's going to live." And I just started crying, and I cried and I cried because um, I knew that what I'd seen was true, and that Mother in Heaven, she told me that many of her children suffer, but that she's always standing nearby, and that we've come to gain a body and to be tested and to learn character and to learn Christ like characteristics. And as we suffer, we learn long suffering, we learn compassion, we learn forgiveness. There's so many traits that we can take from our sorrows. And so she said that everything is a circle in life and that we'll come back to where they will be given what they need. And so I just feel blessed to have had that experience. So thank you for asking about it.
Yeah, that one has never left me. That's just impacted my whole life. And when my son served a mission, he was a missionary in Texas, but like once a week or something, they would do service. And I was just reminded of your story and thinking of those little acts of service that he would do. I was just thinking of your story and the impact that he was having doing those type of services. So thank you for sharing it today.
You're welcome. I have one little part that I'd like to read if that's okay.
Please, yes.
Okay. It's actually the scripture found in Moroni 7:27 through 38. I'll put my glasses back on. And it was written by, spoken by Moroni, a prophet of old. He was an angel who told Joseph Smith where golden plates were buried, which, when they were translated, was turned into the Book of Mormon. And they told of ancient civilizations on this American continent. And the scripture says, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, have miracles ceased because Christ hath ascended into heaven? Behold, I say unto you, Nay, neither have angels ceased to minister unto the children of men. For behold, they are subject unto him to minister according to the word of his command, showing themselves unto them of strong faith and firm mind in every form of godliness. Or have angels ceased to appear unto the children of men? Or has he withheld the power of the Holy Ghost from them? Or will he, so long as time shall last, or the earth shall stand, or there shall be one man upon the face thereof to be saved? Behold, I say unto you, Nay, for it is faith that miracles are wrought, and it is by faith that angels appear and minister unto men. Wherefore, if these things have ceased, woe be unto the children of men, for it is because of unbelief, and all is vain. For no man can be saved according to the words of Christ, save they shall have faith in his name. Wherefore, if these things have ceased, then has faith ceased also, and awful is the state of man, for there is though there had been no redemption made." And I love those scriptures because I wrote a song about that too, but um, how angels have not ceased to minister unto men because Christ hath ascended into heaven, that miracles and angels still happen, and we just have to have faith. And sometimes people have told me, well, I don't have angels don't help me. But I think they do. It's just that not everybody is as sensitive to them. That may not be their spiritual gift. They probably have a different spiritual gift. And so it doesn't mean that you're less than if you don't have an angel visitation. It just means that you get to believe on others, and that requires greater faith to believe on the testimony of others.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amen to that.
Beautiful. Oh, I appreciate you spending your time with us today. This is so beautiful, and I felt the Spirit while you were telling your stories, which is always a testament of truth. So thank you for being here and sharing those.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So yeah, again, I will play your music at the end of this, so don't leave, listeners. You want to hear this song. We want to tell everyone your email so that they can contact you directly to get your book. And then do you have CDs available still?
I do.
Okay, so what is your email for everybody?
It's Kimmy Mel, KIMMEMAIL @yahoo.com. So it's basically Kim with 2 M's and then email.
Perfect. And we will put that on our website as well. So thank you again. Bye.
All right, thank you. Bye.
My sweet little daughter, my baby, my dear, though I can't see you, I feel you are near. I long just to cuddle, I long for your touch. I miss you, dear Hinkley, I miss you so much. I know that your mission on earth is complete, yet I long to kiss you and tickle your feet. I long just to hold you, to snuggle and coo. Oh dear little Hinkley, I love you, I do. For now Jesus holds you in heaven above. He rocks you and sings to my baby with love. For now Jesus holds you in his loving arms. He'll watch and protect you and keep you from harm. For heaven has called you back home to dwell. Dear little sweetheart, your story I'll tell. For angels attend me and comfort my heart, easing my grief while we are apart. For now Jesus holds you in heaven above. He rocks you and sings to my baby with love. For now Jesus holds you in his loving arms. He'll watch and protect you and keep you from harm. I'll always remember your sweet angel face, until in the heavens with love we embrace.
Thank you for joining us on Latter-day Miracles. If you have a miracle story that you feel inspired to share, we'd love to hear from you. Contact us on our website at latterdaymiracles.net or message us on social media.
Until next time, keep your heart open to the miraculous, and may you feel the presence of angels in your everyday life.